Dr. Betsy Coe, our 16th American Montessori Society Living Legacy, has a favorite Montessori quote. Whoever touches the life of a child touches the most sensitive point of whole, which has roots in the most distant path and climbs toward the infinite future. If you know Betsy and your life has been touched by her, I ask you to stand now as just a sampling of the breath of her influence. Thank you. Please note that I stand here representing all of you. Now let's think of the number of people just here in this moment who stood and do the math of how many people. Children she's taught, teachers she's taught, teacher education leaders she's worked with, and just marvel at her work. Betsy has been in the spotlight of Montessori education for over 20 years. And in this group of friends, it's very likely that she needs little introduction. But I'd like to spend a few minutes sharing with you some information about this leader from a more personal perspective, conveyed to me by her husband, Ray. After all, this is his first time ever to hear Betsy speak at an AMS function. The Coes will be celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary this summer, so who would know better than inside scoop? Tell her background information, Ray put together this little basket of souvenirs for Betsy, each having a bit of her incredible story, one of my favorite stories, and one that has been moving to the beautiful outcome of her ongoing life's work. Betsy met Ray in college, where he was immediately attracted to her. After all, Betsy has a magnetic personality and is sometimes located by her distinguishable laugh. Their first date was to see a chick flick. They went to see Thoroughly Modern Millie. She declined a second date and began dating someone else, but gave Ray another chance next year, and this time he more wisely chose the magnificent men in their flying machines. Confided that when he didn't take Betsy to another chick flick until years later when they saw Terms of Endearment. Anyway, to weave this story together, Betsy is a thoroughly modern woman. She's forward-thinking in her manner, stays current with the latest educational research. She even carries an iPod. She's truly magnificent in her own right and has been quoted saying that sometimes life is like building a car while you're driving it. Having a flying machine would be an asset for Betsy since she has visited 46 states and 13 countries on her Montessori mission of teaching teachers, giving talks, and along the way, endearing herself to literally thousands of people every year. Ray vividly remembered that when Betsy was in high school, she had to dissect the book Moby Dick, sentence by sentence for an English class. Now, maybe this explains her insistence on a holistic approach to education, a commitment to excellence in teaching, and although she attends to detail, her commitment is seeing the big picture. She's an expert on adolescent education and has developed a highly respected curriculum. Her overarching gift to her students is modeling and promoting respect, building community, and relevant learning. Betsy is responsible for helping hundreds of students have a positive secondary educational experience at home in Houston by creating the School of the Woods High School and Middle School, and internationally through her teaching teachers to expand this model through the Houston Montessori Center Teacher Education Program. Now, there was a time that she held the middle school class in the church next door, and every weekend she had to break it down and pack it in her van. And in a few minutes, you're going to see the beautiful building that currently houses the middle school that she designed, and get ideas about the innovative teaching that happens there. Betsy's example teaches us to start with a dream, work hard, and make it happen. She is truly building a legacy with her life's work. As all great leaders have experienced, Betsy has overcome a few obstacles. Early on in her marriage, Betsy and Ray lived in Louisiana. She was absolutely horrified to learn that her husband had to sign to get her a library card, and he also had to sign for her to receive a check cashing card. So Ray has arranged to have her own library card and check cashing card if ever she goes back to Louisiana. And if you know Betsy, then you know she's all about fairness. Her work in peace education has inspired many people to see others' points of view and promote inclusiveness. Betsy's a genuinely kind, peaceful, fair person, and I don't know if I have a compliment. She obviously doesn't hold grudges. When Louisiana was in need after Hurricane Katrina, Betsy sprung into action. First, she asked and received thousands of personal care kits filled with items needed by those displaced by the disaster. And then she organized Montessori schools across the entire United States to donate surplus Montessori materials and help rebuild the schools. Betsy collected hundreds of boxes of Montessori materials and filled 3 classrooms with boxes stacked for a few years. And then when her earthquake occurred in Pakistan, she sent 3 depots filled with Montessori materials there. I could go on and on with examples of Betsy's generosity. And so, Betsy's an internationally known and respected Montessorian who has made a significant contribution to education and teacher education. As the executive director of the Houston Montessori Center, the center attracts around 100 teachers each year that come from all over the world to implement the Montessori approach, and they come to study under the highly regarded Dr. Betsy Coe. Betsy has worked diligently to better education in general and has given tirelessly to the American Montessori Society, striving to strengthen Montessori education. Betsy has served on the AMS Board of Directors in many capacities, given frequent presentations, chaired conferences, written articles for Montessori Life magazine. She has the distinction of having served more time on the AMS Board of Directors than any other person walking over 20 years. Hopefully, for some of you who came knowing Betsy, now you that didn't know Betsy, have a hint of her contributions and her hard work. Those of you that came because you wanted to be here to honor Betsy, maybe you've learned something about her you didn't know. I introduce her as a kind, gracious person, a Montessorian who walks the walk and lives her convictions. She's a master teacher, a teacher of teachers, promoting and guiding teacher education while being the loving mother of 2 Montessori adults, the doting grandmother of 5 beautiful grandchildren, one who is named Maria Elizabeth, and the wife of a self-proclaimed Montessori observer, Ray Coe. You must have gathered Betsy has a sense of humor, and she can take in stride the fact the journey has had just a few bumps along the way, making her resilient. And Betsy models putting issues into context. The best is yet to come, Betsy. Know that you are loved. Thank you for being such a star who casts her light and beauty among us, touching our lives now and helping to build the infinite future, just like Dr. Montessori talked about. The following visual tribute was made for you, Betsy, from photos sent from your many friends and family. It was graciously produced by the very talented AMS board member, Alyssa Moore. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this acknowledgement of our Dr. Betsy Coe.
Thank you, Rich, Marilyn, Amy, and I think my family for putting all those pictures together. I went up several weeks to get a picture, and all our pictures were gone. And I couldn't figure out where they were. I now know. Tonight, I've been given the opportunity to share a message with you. This is an awesome task, taking me back to the first AMS workshop I gave many years ago. At that presentation, I had a rock that I used to demonstrate an early math concept and to be my anchor for confidence. I have that rock with me today to remind me of this journey and to again be my anchor. In looking at Montessori movement, gifts and challenges, I want to focus on celebrating what is right with Montessori as we view the past and the present, and what Montessori can do for the world as we look to the future. These phrases come from the DVD celebrating what's right with the world, with the DeWitt Jones who deeply moves me every time I see that DVD. Mr. Jones is a photographer for the National Geographic who uses nature to capture his ideas. There are many significant messages in the DVD, some of which are, when we are open to possibilities, we can alter our frame of reference to suddenly see what's there. Focusing on being your best for the world unleashes your energy to right what's wrong. One must take oneself to the edge of an experience to see all the possibilities in order to do your best, to be your best, and to be the best for the world. This similar lens was the genius of Maria Montessori, as she grounded her philosophy in respect for the child, in honoring the individual spirit, and believing in the goodness of the heart. She was open to the possibilities of the child, saw what was there, created a philosophy and a method in response. Our life with children in the classroom exemplifies this positive approach. We state ground rules, using positive words, encourage positive behavior, and respectful interactions. If it is, we will hold a very large umbrella of respect over the child, shadowing them all day long, not interfering with their freedom, but making sure we allow the child to encounter life's moments protected and surrounded by that umbrella. Now, please imagine the Montessori room chart with 3 red circles representing the past, the present, and the future. We will begin with the first circle representing the past. When children come to an elementary class, we present the movable alphabet in a new way. We look at all the letters in this amazing alphabet, and children research how some of the letters have evolved through time to reach the ones we currently have. We then view these letters as a legacy that came down through time. We open the child to the wonder of thinking about this first person who invented the alphabet. And with these 26 letters, a real gift from the past, we can now put them together in so many different ways to create what we want to say, eventually leaving our legacy of thoughts to future generations. Again, we can help children know that we all stand on the shoulders of giants, and they too can have the dreams to develop and master the skills, becoming one of those future giants. I think of the amazing legacy that has been left for Montessorians. Of course, the first is the legacy of Dr. Maria Montessori, who was open to the possibilities of children, believed in the potential of the child, and was able to actualize her design. She left us with a holistic education, a learner-centered environment, an education that has continued, a vision to educate for peace, and the power of observation, just to name a few. If we look at one of her legacies right now, the power of observation, I believe it implies that Montessori is a dynamic philosophy that calls us to constantly observe the child, find avenues to respond, and remove the obstacles that we put before them. That's why I believe so much in Selma Perry's statement. We are here to continue Montessori's work, not just repeat it. It is a challenge to know and understand the essence of Montessori philosophy and learn to truly observe, to do what we see with the eyes of the camera, to record objectively so that we can continue our walk with integrity as we live and work in modern times. I think of the record of immense works of Nancy Randlish and the individuals who started the American Montessori Society, and their vision of American view of Montessori education at that time, opening up opportunities for more people, of seeing more possibilities. And thank you, Cleo Munson, Bretta Weiss, Michael Eanes, Marie Dugan, and now Rich Unger, for continuing that vision. How lucky we are to have had the right person at the right time in our society. We also stand on the shoulders of those giants. A mentor for me, and one of the first AMS board members, was Peggy Leffler. Peggy Leffler had a focus on Montessori philosophy and research, which at times were not so comfortable for many Montessorians. Her legacy, I believe, is always about encouraging us to observe, making the thoughtful or asking the thoughtful, hard questions, and seeking the answers both within and outside of Montessori. Peggy was on my dissertation committee, and I learned so much from her, as well as feeling very supported in all my endeavors. The Teacher Education Committee is a great example of the legacy that was initiated by a small, very hard-working group of people who knew that we must develop quality teacher education programs to continue Montessori's work to reach more children. People such as Peggy, Doug and Marie Gabel, Marquita Dubois, Charles and Joy Turner, Jane Mack, Sonia Donahoe, Joe Sogori, Marcella Dawson, Lorna Trehune, Mary Bernard Habs, Selma Perry, Beverly McGee, John Chapman Nichols, Dottie Feldman, Beth Bronson, and many others. This small committee, who literally sat around one table to make decisions, today has turned into a very large committee of more than 175 representatives of teacher education programs from all over the world, with a growth of about 15 new programs each year. Now we have the daunting challenge of finding the most efficient way for this large, dedicated committee to work together and make decisions. With foresight to the future, AMS, with Ann Newberg, Joy Turners, and others, created our own accreditation organization, which was Access, then Maxis, and eventually turned into MACT. I remember the day in New Orleans when I ceremoniously signed over Maxis work to MACT, with 100 people from all over the world gathered to celebrate. I also remember Houston Montessori Center's first self-study for accreditation that was in a very small folder. And one I wrote a few months ago was housed in many large binders. I guess we could debate whether that is progress. Our growth is good and positive sign that Montessori is alive and well. Our challenge will be to develop systems for ensuring quality teacher education to keep up with the demand and hopefully with the smallest amount of paperwork. I consider myself a person who was rooted in the past with so many early mentors, but still have a foot in the now generation. What a wonderful opportunity. It was an awakening to me, however, at the last AMS board dinner, when past presidents were introduced. I found myself chronologically in the middle of the list of all AMS presidents, and it seems only yesterday that I began the term of office. This service to AMS has given me a unique opportunity to work with many of those legacies, those giants who set the stage for our future. With honor, we remember their words and deeds of service so we can move forward in our quest for a better world for children and families. From these Montessori heroes who are still with us, we need to glean their wisdom and always remember the legacy of dedication and excellence. Much like the lesson of the movable alphabet, we Montessorians need to construct those thoughts, those important messages we want to leave for future generations. Let us celebrate what Montessori has already done for the world. Now let's go back to that verb chart and move to the second red verb representing the present. Today, Over a century after the founding of the first Casa de Bambini, researchers are finding scientific data to support Montessori's discoveries. A 2006 study published in the journal Science concluded that Montessori students perform better than their public school counterparts in a variety of areas, including not only traditional academic areas, but in social cognition skills as well. Recent research studies that Angelina Lillard cites in her book, Montessori, the Science Behind the Genius, confirm that children learn best through making active choices, hands-on activities, movement, peer teaching, and a positive environment. In recent psychology studies, Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi has proposed the concept of a flow, which is the middle state of operation, in which the person is fully immersed in what he or she is doing, characterized by a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and success in the process of activity. Dr. Csikszentmihalyi's work on flow very much overlaps with Montessori's description of normalization of the child and valorization of the adolescent. He has been intrigued with this idea and has joined Montessorians in several research projects. The research on the importance of a physically and psychologically safe environment concurs with Montessori's focus on an inquisitive, cooperative, nurturing atmosphere where children can trust, be independent, speak their voice, and develop relationship with a community of learners. Brain research indicates that we have a three-part brain, the reptilian, midbrain, and neocortex. It's been found that if the environment is not safe, the midbrain shuts down and closes the pathway to the neocortex, where critical and creative thinking occurs. In other words, one can only perform rote or low-level learning in a stressful environment. I would predict that one reason our students score so well is that they are in a nurturing environment that allows pathways to the neocortex to be engaged. Even some of our practices, as simple as why we sit on a child's dominant side to give a lesson, are now being validated by the fact that the dominant ear processes language. Additionally, the newest findings on the adolescent brain validate what Montessori suggested as elements in an optimal adolescent environment. AMS is acknowledging the importance of research by giving awards for these theses and dissertations on Montessori topics. I'm lucky to work in two environments that value Montessori philosophy, observation, research, and global issues, and let me play with all of these ideas with them. Both Houston Montessori Center and School of the Woods are models of a dynamic representation of Montessori philosophy and continuing Montessori's work. The Board of Directors and faculty at the Houston Montessori Center goal is to offer Montessori education and current research using the best practices of teaching adults. We constantly observe the practical insights and refine our practices, modeling what we want teachers to do. One discovery we made was that administrators, like teachers, need support, especially in knowing Montessori philosophy and the application to the adult environment, leadership, and administrative skills. Thus, we added the administrator's course. The end result is a dynamic Montessori community based on Montessori principles. We are able to serve schools from many perspectives. Sherry Heron and the faculty at School of the Woods are constantly challenged themselves to prepare lifelong learners by integrating Montessori education with contemporary methods and materials to foster competent, self-motivated, morally aware, personally and socially responsible people. We're constantly trying to live our talk with projects such as the new permanent home of our high school will be a green building. As we move to more global view, I'm proud to note that AMS has become an active agent in educating for peace and social justice. An initiative by the Hague Appeal for Peace is to provide a systematic way to teach peace education from birth to university. Montessori had a peace model for many years. Sonny McFarland, Pat Yonka, and I presented the Montessori Peace Education Framework, at the Hague Appeal for Peace conference. We were unique in that we did not represent a country like all the other participants, since Montessori is worldwide. Our framework focused on 4 awarenesses, which are self, the physical, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual growth. 2, the community, learning to work cooperatively with others and practicing conflict resolution. 3, cultural diversity, which is being respectful to people different than oneself. And 4, environmental, which is taking care of our planet. These principles are embedded in the Montessori classrooms as we are practicing our Montessori vision to educate for peace. We did become much more conscious that basic survival needs of so many people have not been met, and this foundational need must be met and addressed in order to validate the real work of peace education. AMS has recently produced a DVD on peace education by Eric Johnson. I remember attending a conference over 30 years ago in Dayton, Ohio, where Jenny Vargas was advocating for a peace video. This video that we now have is available to schools and teacher education programs. AMS is also an NGO, or a non-governmental organization of the United Nations, thanks to the legacy of Ruth Selman. We have representatives who attend the briefings as well as individuals who attend the delegate conferences in September. I've had the opportunity to be one of those delegates. What an awesome experience it is to sit in those chambers at the UN and hear the perspective of people from around the world espousing views with which one may or may not agree with. There are now opportunities for you to understand more about the UN with youth visits the UN and Montessori Model UN programs. Validating the increasing awareness and importance of peace issues, recent comfort keynote speakers have been bringing our attention to our responsibility to advocate for social justice and equality. AMS also sponsors a peace retreat routinely where Patty, Sonny, and I focus on the transformation of the teacher. Speaking of social justice, the American Montessori Society is an organization that spreads its influence locally and globally where there is need. From the DVD Celebrating What's Right with the World mentioned earlier, we learned that focusing on being our best for the world unleashes our energy to right what's wrong. There are many worthwhile projects Montessorians bring to many children, no matter what their economic circumstance. Menier, Catherine Miller, Greta Yeager, Barbara Corona, I, and other Houston Montessorians are involved in a new project in Houston to offer Montessori early childhood education to 500 children at risk, much as Montessori did in the slums of Rome 100 years ago. The City of Houston and the Ibicina Foundation have pledged a significant contribution for this endeavor. There are other programs in the United States for children whose mothers are in prison, for those who are homeless, and those experiencing many other unfortunate life circumstances. I invite all of you to step outside the boundaries of your normal, very busy lives to find a worthwhile service learning project that you can find time to promote and support with your own resources. I've had the privilege of working in many countries of the world, observing the tremendous impact and the value of a Montessori education in many diverse countries. Recently, a group of high school students and I went to the Dominican Republic to work with Carmen Delgado and Marina Grau. As part of our work, we visited a Montessori school in the Patay, the Haitian part of Santo Domingo. Among the dirt roads with cardboard houses with tin roofs are people of great poverty, children with no clothes and extended bellies, very much like what you would see in the National Geographic magazine. And amidst this great poverty is a beautiful Montessori school for children ages 4 to 12, guided by Sister Mary Alice, who has taken the Montessori course from Marina and Carmen. This school is open to any child in the area with parental permission. The children are given clothes, milk, and bread, along with an education. I realize that these children, from a life of such deprivation, We're just like Montessori children in so many environments, thriving in a climate of respect, focusing on work, being kind to one another, and learning life skills. What a testimony to the work of Maria Montessori and to the many people who carry her work forward to so many people and children worldwide. No matter how meager the resources, this revolutionary educational movement, started more than 100 years ago, works in any environment with children, for those who have much and those who have very little. Our adolescents have joined a Montessori school in Panama, which has adopted a village in the rainforest where each January they gather food, school supplies, medical supplies, and spend a week refurbishing the village houses and gardens. We also have exchange programs with Montessori schools in Santiago, Chile, and Monterrey, Mexico. We also are looking forward to our opportunities in Bolivia and Guatemala for our service learning. What meaningful experiences for adolescents to know, to serve, and to appreciate more people on the planet. This, of course, is just a few examples of service learning for which I'm directly involved, but there are many more. Marge Ellison and the faculty and parents at Montessori Country Day in Houston have helped start and are funding a Montessori school called the House of Hope in Nairobi, Kenya, for orphans devastated by AIDS. I've recently met Anne at Pathfinders International, who's wanting to fund a Montessori school in her country, Nigeria, and needs Montessori teachers to come and set up the project. The Cambacks, with the help of the AMS Seed Fund, are working with a school in Uganda. Princeton Montessori works with teachers in schools in Ukraine. And there are many other opportunities now in the Pacific Rim. These many projects all over the world that we've identified, we can share the immense benefits of Montessori education with more and more families. Montessori started with early childhood and then added the cosmic education of elementary. Later, she shared the thoughts about infant, toddler, and secondary levels. The development of Montessori schools in America has followed the same pattern, with early childhood, elementary, infant and toddler, and then secondary. In North America, we are adding approximately 100,000 enrollments annually. We have many schools today which serve children at many levels of the whole continuum, from infants to secondary. As most of you know, I have a passion for the adolescent, and have spent the last 25 years researching and creating optimal environments for 12 to 18-year-olds. I now work with adolescent programs in schools in the US, Canada, Central and South America, Caribbean, and New Zealand. My daughter Stephanie has spent the last 12 years working with me on the middle school program after she went through the adolescent program herself as a child. My daughter Deborah was instrumental in creating our high school program, also using her experience as a Montessori child from age 18 months to 14 years. There are many wonderful models with adolescent leaders, such as Marty Donahoe, Penny Jakuski, Mary Orlando, the middle and high school teachers at School of the Woods, such as Bert Bone, who all share their work with those who want to start adolescent programs. It's now time for AMS to recognize that adolescents in Montessori schools deserve to be taught by credentialed secondary teachers who prepare programs that offer adolescent activities which encourage exploration of oneself and their place in the world, opportunities to work and live in a trusting community which fosters deep connections with others, and a curriculum that demonstrates the interdisciplinary nature of the world, preparing them to understand and solve current and future challenges. And yes, Aileen, Catherine, Brenna, and Peggy, I am working on my book on adolescence that you have encouraged me to read. Moving to our third verb on our chart, what does the future hold for Montessori education, and what are the challenges and possibilities? How can we better connect to our families we serve, the teachers we prepare, the educational community, the local and global communities in which we live, to align and bring Montessori together. In the Interdependence of Living Things chart, Montessori gave us a lesson that takes individual elements and puts them together into an integrated whole, represented by the quote, "We shall walk together on this path of life, for all things are part of the universe and are connected with each other to form one whole unity." With this poetic teaching statement, she truly was brilliant to discern and know so long ago that we are now discovering about the cosmos. The reason many of us are drawn to Montessori education is that it sparks our imagination, it soothes our longing for sameness with the focus on systems of respect. It signifies an important intellectual challenge with so many individual variables in the age levels and in the complexity of the curriculums and the cultures. We see patterns that repeat, that duplicate true each time. Adults and children all come to trust what we can predict. The job of AMS has been to standardize the excellence in the Montessori communities around the world. But those standards of excellence may not exist in systems outside the influence of our organization. AMS is now mature enough to go outside of our organization. My vision is to educate and influence world leaders, educators, and public policy makers of importance of child in society, much as Judy Byron and Heidi Larson's committee has already begun. This is one of the ways to reform education so that all young people can develop to their fullest potential and create a peaceful world. What exciting work we have before us. How will we go about accomplishing this great work? I think we first must commit to explore and educate ourselves on such topics as social justice, service learning, sustainability, servant leadership, habits of mind, and interface with organization and people who have that knowledge. You will see some of these topics in the next year's AMS conference in New Orleans, and I hope in many more learning forums to come. We need to reach out to as many children and families as possible with our publicly funded schools. I believe our document, Essential Elements for Successful Montessori Schools in the Public Sector, help programs start right and keep on track. We also need to continue our global work, finding ways to make Montessori schools sustainable in many other countries, especially in countries where education is so needed. We can start consortiums to support startup schools and teacher education programs in their individual communities, so in time they carry on with independence. Many of us consider ourselves an international community, so how can our actions match our words? We also need to make our Montessori jargon accessible to parents and other educators so they truly understand our work and it does not remain a mystery. Parents are our child's first and main teachers. We need to focus on parent education. How can we reach more families and support them in raising their children with the respect that Montessori represents? We need to write more user-friendly books and articles to share our thoughts with everyone. More and more Montessorians are receiving higher levels of education, which give them more access to university forms. What can you do as an individual to share your knowledge and be part of the educational community? Perhaps you can share information at a university class, or write an article in a local publication, or present at a non-Montessori conference. In other words, we should stop preaching to the choir, get outside ourselves, and interface with others. In order to expand our learning, we need to conduct more research. Research speaks to our society, it validates and verifies facts so that the public can believe in the value of this form of education. It is one way we can learn more and others can learn from us. The Montessori system has so much to offer, and yet we still have so much to learn. As Montessori educators, we have a mission to promote, refine, and amplify Montessori's work. We need to learn to practice being active observers in our classroom. It is only by learning the art of observation can we really follow the child. What do we need to do to modify our classroom to make it a better match for a child or a group of children? The classroom should have as a given a dynamic process of observing and responding Following this protocol is what makes a truly gifted guide. An active research project that I'm interested in AMS pursuing is the habits of mind. The definition of the habits of mind, according to Art Costa, is a humanistic philosophy of respect for others that expresses a belief in people's capacity for developing their intellect through reasoned reflection and appropriate emotion. I think we all could agree that we Montessorians are looking for the same outcome. After all, we want our children to see wonderment and awe, to gather data through senses, to pose questions, and to experience the rest of the 16 individual habits. There was an all-day workshop on the habits of mind today, and Art Costa will be speaking again on Saturday. I encourage Montessorians to interface with Dr. Costas and others about highly regarded educational products that articulate our belief but are spoken in a different language. The only way to have more schools to serve more children and families worldwide is to have strong teacher education programs. Teacher educators need to have professional development opportunities in order to know how to transmit the philosophy with the best practices of teaching adults. It is said that 90% of what is remembered in any course is learned during the hands-on practicum. Thus, we need to have strong schools to serve as practicum sites that are positive learning experiences for teachers. They master the art of preparing the environment, observing and guiding children, and developing a partnership with parents. Thus, we will have strong schools with well-educated teachers to serve our families. Do we make time in our teacher education programs to really prepare the teacher in addition to manipulating the materials? Montessori felt the first step in preparing the teacher or the environment for children was in the preparation of the teacher. She said the first essential element is that the teacher should go through an inner spiritual preparation, cultivate certain aptitudes in the moral order. This is the most difficult part of her or his training, but without which all the rest is no avail. Can these areas be taught through distance learning? I am confident that teachers can learn how to manipulate materials from video and that there can be online discussions. But is that all there is to the preparation of the teacher? There's much to be said for face-to-face encounters with the community of learners. Would we assume that a child could benefit and become complete as a learner in such an environment? So I believe we proceed with caution and thinking we can completely replace the human element with technology. Do we as teachers practice inner peace? To be fully present, to spend time in nature, balance our lives, listen to that inner voice, clear the clutter and clatter from our mind, breathe and relax? These characteristics of spirit are what truly make us available to assist children in their development. Do we spend time each day so focused on preparing our physical environment that we ignore the psychological preparation? After all, one of our key concepts is to acknowledge the physical, emotional, social, aesthetic, spiritual, and cognitive needs of the child. But we must also turn that mirror inward and make certain we are acknowledging and giving permission to ourselves in these oh so important areas. In order to transform, we must model a culture of peace. According to William Ury in the book Getting to Peace, peace is the defining issue of our time. No more critical challenge faces each of us and all of us together than how to get along. How can we learn to live together and deal constructively with our deepest differences? The challenge exists on the smallest scale and on the largest. Never before in human evolution have people faced the challenge of living in a single community with billions of other beings. Most people do not know how to work with a group of 6, never mind 60, 600, or 6 billion. We adults need to model working together in our classrooms. As Montessorians, we usually agree on how we should relate to children. And many of us have great skills on how to treat children with respect, dignity, and understanding. However, what I've found is that we have a great focus on children, but forget about applying our philosophy to the adults in our community, whether they are significant others, co-workers, parents, or Montessorians with a different credential. We do not always model what we believe. It is amazing how we can be so talented with children and be so uncomfortable with other adults. For instance, what do you do when two children are having a disagreement? What do you do when you have a disagreement with another adult? Is the solution to the conflict, the process, the same or different? In order to be heard, we must speak in a united voice, regardless of organizational affiliation. I believe the Montessori community's strength and effectiveness in the future will be based on our ability to speak in a united voice to the educational community and policymakers. We need to strive as organizational leaders and as individuals and model our philosophy of cooperation among each other. After all, we have more commonalities than differences. The merger of NCME and AMS is a great example of coming together as Montessorians. We have a lot of awe-inspiring, fulfilling work to do together. Each of us has taken on an awesome task in choosing our work with children. We need to celebrate and acknowledge our successes over the last 101 years. These successes are why Montessori is expanding in levels from infant and toddler to high school and growing in numbers at each level internationally. I believe that we are making an impact on the lives of many families. Now let's take ourselves to the edge to do our best so that we can be the best for the world. I want the world to be a great place for my 5 grandchildren and all the world's children. So, in closing, I would like to say I am honored and humbled by being selected as the 2008 AMS Living Legacy. As a few of you know, I've been having trouble accepting this acknowledgement, and with much reflection, perhaps I'm not alone. Nothing can be done by one person alone. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a team to accomplish a project, and it takes a world of people to do Montessori work. So I believe I'm only the identified representative of all of you. I am so humbled to be chosen for that honor. So here's to all of you. I honor you. And their husbands, David and Raymond, and my grandchildren, this is Joseph, Daniel, Kevin, Maria, and Emily. Without the support of my family.
I was good.
Hung in the AMS office. A book that many people signed at the fall conference and also at the TEC meeting in Vancouver. Well wishes to Betsy. A memory book made for you by Catherine Miller, School of Wisdom, Houston. If you would like to sign the book, it will still be out, and also will have papers so that you can write your messages.
And some roses. Betsy. Okay, a few more announcements.